Back again with our SPINcast. Today's guest is the head coach for the women's soccer team at Ardrey-Kell High School. Her name is Kim Montgomery. I have actually had the pleasure of knowing Kim for a little bit on and off the field, so I've been able to see not just her work, but who she is as a person. So it's my pleasure to introduce her to you all today, but I will let her tell you a little bit more about herself, what got her into soccer, a little bit more about her background, and we will go from there. So without further ado, thank you, Kim, for joining us this morning. And
You bet.
thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into soccer, what you do, etc.?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm humbled that I was chosen to have this conversation with you this morning. And, you know, I've been playing soccer as a player my whole life. Even now as a coach, I try to live vicariously through my coaching, and it gives me a tremendous amount of identity in what I do. So I grew up in New Jersey and, played soccer starting with little rec teams. And, the sports has certainly grown to be this massive aspect of everybody's life. But growing up, it was one team in one town and, you had parents coaching, and I just love the sport. I love to compete. I love to win. And that always drove me to want to continue to play. I won 2 state championships in high school. My high school days were one of I can remember back to probably some of my greatest moments is because I was connected to the sport and had those relationships, and my teammates were like my sisters. Coaches were like parents. And then went on to play college soccer at NC State and loved my experience with the Wolfpack. We went to the Final Four twice in the time that I was there. And actually in 1990, dating myself, we went to played North Carolina Chapel Hill at the time, who was dominant and won every single year, but we were number 2 in the country. And we went to the game just in college that I remember forever is this game. And it was the freshman year, semifinals of the NCAA tournament, and we lost 4-3 in triple overtime at the time. We were 11 seconds to going into a penalty kick shootout. And Mia Hamm went ahead and scored the game-winning goal with 11 seconds left. But to be a part of that game was a tremendous opportunity and experience for me, and it kept me driving to want to keep playing. And when college was over, I played semi-pro, and then the professional league started after that, the WSA, and I was drafted to play for the Carolina Courage. So I played for the Carolina Courage professionally. I got to say, that job, by far, best job ever. And we won a world championship. And actually, I think I got my revenge on Mia because the second year of the league in 2001, the Carolina Courage played the Washington Freedom, and we beat them 3-2, I believe it was, in Georgia Tech's Bobby Dodd Stadium in about front of 60,000 people. So it was quite a moment as a player. And then that has just driven me to want to coach the game. I've coached club soccer. I have coached at Virginia Tech, where I got my graduate degree for 2 years. And I coached in Florida high school with the great Bill Isley down there. Taught me how to love and appreciate having your own program. And to the current, probably been coaching for 20 years maybe now. So now my current job is to teach and coach at Ardrey-Kell High School, where I've been for 9 years. And that program brings me nothing but happiness to my everyday.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sure for the viewers watching, you can see her passion and commitment just in how she describes her past. So, and she brings that every day to Ardrey Kell as well. So I've been able to see that firsthand. That's fantastic. Now, there comes a point in time in your sports career that you come to the realization that this is what I'm going to do. It transitions
Mhm.
from this is what I want to do. I think everybody wants to move on professionally, but at some point there's that thought process or realization of, man, I'm pretty good and this is what I am going to do. So now the work ethic and all of those things start to materialize a little bit more so. But when was that aha moment, or when was that point in your life that you can look back at and say, yeah, this is certainly something probably you always wanted to do, but this is the time frame where you knew this was what you were going to do?
I have to tell you that from being a young kid, being in high school, I don't, I come from a small town, and everybody that I grew up with is still in that small town. And without soccer, as a player, or even knowing that this is my calling, I think I realized in high school that I can't live without it. And it has it has gotten me to where I am as a coach. Now I learn every day. I have a lot of humility in my upbringing and where I come from. I don't have an ego, and I think as a player, in high school, I loved it, and I thought to myself, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't do anything without this game. And going to college, I wasn't the smartest, but I'm the hardest worker, and it allowed me to go to college, go to grad school. I have my national boards in teaching, which is no easy task to get. But these are the things, I think, having that competitive spirit allowed me to see that I could do whatever I wanted. And when I moved to Charlotte 10 years ago, I went around and thought, where is the best? Because I want to be part of the best.
Right.
And that was my goal, is I want to coach high school, and I want to go and be a part of a school and a program with like-minded people. Ardrey Kell is the #1 high school in CMS, public school, academically and athletically. And, it's like being a warrior and hunting. Like, you're going to go get what you serve to do. So I really knew from a young age, and having success always allowed me to know that I could depend on this sport and depend on this game in whatever aspect it was. Now, I played until I was 34 years old. I played until I could not play again. Whatever the injuries and just being old and being out athleticized by younger kids, and it was their time. But that was allowed me to know that, by the time I was 34 years old, I knew that I couldn't play anymore. So now it was my time to give back to kids, to help them understand it. It doesn't even have to be soccer. It doesn't have to be sports. It has to be, you got to be good at something. You got to figure out, what it is that you want to be good at, and you got to go after it with all your heart and all your might, and see, that's going to drive you to be happy to go to school every day, to, do what you're going to do after high school. Whether it's what I tell my high school kids that I teach, be good at something, find your goodness, find your connect, because that is really those human related things are going to what drive you to have a future. Whether it's drama or academics or sports or gaming, whatever it is that you're going to be good at, go be good at it full speed. And then see how that aspect of your life can push you and drive you to be successful in everything that you do. Relationships, getting jobs, competing to go to college, figuring out who your life partner is going to be. and putting yourself at that level that you feel self-worth, and having that self-worth by being good at something and having that confidence is going to drive you to be with like-minded people. So
No
I
doubt.
know at a really young age that this was going to be my passion, and helping others find their passion is a huge part of my everyday.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Very well said, because at the end of the day, you have to get out there and compete at every level for no matter what it is that you're doing. Like you mentioned, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a class, whether it's a sport, somebody's
Right.
got to get after it. So that's great. It's not as easy, however, as you make it sound. Obviously, there's a lot of trials and tribulations, a number of sacrifices I'm sure you had to put up with to attain those goals, especially on the sports side of things. So if you could look back and talk a little bit about what types of sacrifices you've had to make over the years to get to the points that you got to.
Yes. So, um, you know what? As you sacrifice, you build an awareness. You build an awareness of how important um, reality and life are. And so you give up things. And even important, like when I was playing pro, I missed a lot of weddings. I missed families, siblings, babies being born, and things like that. And that's difficult, but it's like everybody begins to recognize that um, this is really, really important for the future of whatever we're going to do, but you build that awareness with your sacrifice. But it does allow you to establish those um, relationships, and you learn how to repurpose those sacrifices into opportunities. Even as a coach right now, I ask my kids to sacrifice. If they want to be a part of my program, they have to, they're under a microscope, right? All the athletes these days in social media, I ask them, to any social media that they post, they have to know, okay, if Coach Monty saw this, are we going to be okay with that? Or, if you do cross the line and you post something inappropriate, you don't get to be a part of this over here. And you have to want to be a part of this. And that's my goal, is to help kids understand that you are missing out by not being over here, and that all of this craziness and this toxicity that you're getting sucked into, whether drugs and bad relationships, things like that, that cause you to go down a path that is not going to put you at a standard and an expectation to for life that is good. I try to make this pot over here that I'm stirring look so glamorous that I tell my kids all the time, everybody on the outside of our program, they're all just wishing they could be over here. And, that's what I think is super important, is that kids drive to find out what they're good at. And, you spend that time and that energy focusing on that opportunity. And if you have to give up stuff, life situations for this healthy concoction over here, then you start to really realize that it's okay. Certainly the fitness part of it, what I do in terms of what these kids do in terms of working out, of staying fit, of their diet, their social media restrictions. Those are difficult for kids. And you have to show them that it's so good over here, and you're going to regret. You don't want to look back and have regret. And so, I even tell a lot of the kids, I teach over 150 kids in my health and PE classes. whether it's my yoga classes or my ninth grade PE and health classes. Be good at something, sacrifice to be good at that, recognize that it's good and healthy, and you're going to miss out if you're not over here. There's a lot of sacrifice, but for me, because of the passion that I had for what I do then and what I do now, there's a lot of faculty meetings. Do you think I want to be a part of any of those? No, don't tell Mr. Switzer, right? But I give that up. I drive to do I just had to recertify for my national boards. Those things, are they fun? They're not fun, but to get to the fun, to get to my coaching, to get to my team, and to be the head of this program, I do those things as part of my work ethic to get to have that dessert. There's a lot of people that eat the meal just to get to their dessert, and that's what you got to do sometimes. You got to sacrifice and do the things that you need to do that always aren't very glamorous or super fun, or, those type of things. Getting up at 5:40 every morning, to go to work. Nobody wants to do that. But those things need to be done so that you can get to your end game. You can get to that moment that drives you, and that experience that makes you come back the next day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As they say, nothing in life is free, so you got to put in the time. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So let's transition a little bit. And obviously, from playing sports, it's almost like a second home. Quite frankly, in some instances, it's almost like more of a first home in terms of whether it's a father figure or a mother figure, depending on who your coach is. Talk to me a little bit about, and I'm sure you had multiple coaches over the years that had a significant impact and influence on you, but if you could pick out one coach that you think, this person had a really big influence in who I am as a person today, not so much as a player, but as a person, who would that be and why?
I think I have to go with two. I have to go with two. I had one in college, Sam Makpodu. He was actually the Nigerian national team coach, and he had come over to America from Nigeria and played at NC State, and then was the assistant coach at NC State when I went there from 90 to 94. And Sam, I always tell the story about how he only had 7 toes, and he used to play soccer, in bare feet and had nothing. Sometimes we would be driving in a bus. One time in a bus, we were driving and he wanted to pull over because there was roadkill. And back where he came from, they would stop and get that. And that would be their meal. There was a deer on the side of the road and we were like, no, don't do it. But Sammy was an incredible player and took a vested interest in me, coming from New Jersey, going to NC State, just my toughness and grit, and he loved it. And we had that connection. I would stay after and work with him, and he just invested in me. And I felt loved, and I felt like somebody real was connecting with me. He later went to Virginia Tech and became the head coach there. And when I graduated NC State, he called me up and said, hey, come be my assistant coach, come get your graduate degree. And, when you're 23, 24 years old, you might not know what the heck you're doing at that point. You're still in that meantime, your brain's not still fully developed. I love the game. And he said, come on to Virginia Tech and come coach with me. And so I went to Virginia Tech for 2 years, got my master's degree. And I'm so grateful to him for continuing. You think I have passion for the game. That man lives and breathes it. And he taught me some of the coaching sides of it and how to look through the coaching goggles of it, because I was tough. I was tough on those girls at that time. I look back and I think, oh, no wonder a lot of them didn't like me, because I just was like, you got to be like me. You got to be like me. Got to be like me. And that's not the recipe for success for a lot of people. You got to approach kids differently. You got to coach them differently. And from there, I went on and started to teach back in Raleigh. And I was teaching in school and coaching high school and middle school. And that's when the W League started. And Bill Palladino, the great coach from UNC Chapel Hill, he was assistant coach there for 40 years. He was the coach of this Raleigh Wings team. And I learned the commitment and sacrifice that went into the UNC program. You know, it's very transferable. And he took our team of great players from NC State, Duke, Carolina. I played with incredible players, all from Tobacco Road, from that area. And he was able to take us, and we won 2 national championships. The team only existed for 3, and the third year, we lost in these crazy penalty kicks where you had to dribble. It wasn't even like a PK from the PK spot. And Coach Dino, first of all, he taught me fitness, which I had never really experienced before. And he made me better than I thought I could be as a soccer player. And I thought I was good already, but he taught me the game. He taught me how to push myself past a level of fitness pain that you cannot even imagine. And then made it fun on top of that. And to this day, I chalk up what I do and my passion for the sport and how successful I was as a professional to him. It was after the third year that the WSA came about, and I was old for that league. At the time, I was 29, and you think 29, that's not very old, but for a female soccer player, it's pretty old. Most have retired by that time. But he drove me, and I was drafted to play in this league and got to play for all 3 years, until I was 32. And I really chalked that up to him. And really, Sammy and Bill Palladino, to this day, I'm connected with them. I'm friends with them. When I struggle with something, I reach out to them, and they have been, as a player, they've been my mentors. Bill Isley from Florida that I met 15 years ago, he was the head coach at Lake Mary High School and still is today, is in the Florida Hall of Fame as a coach, and he is my mentor as a coach. I just talked to him yesterday about all the craziness that's going on, and he has never steered me in the wrong direction. So there's been 3 people, I think, that have truly impacted and influenced my world and who I am connected to this day.
Yeah, it's funny how they all come from a variety of angles too. One was the passion behind the sport, as well as the investment in you. The other one, kind of the work ethic and the physical fitness that needed to come along to be successful. And obviously someone that you knew from the high school level that also is still an impactful person in your life today. And the interesting part is, and I think that's a sign of success as a coach, is when they're still in their players' lives years after the fact. Right. So that's pretty cool. As a coach, I'm going to give you a 2-part question. We'll end on a happier note. The first part is, what are some of the bigger challenges that you face today in the game of soccer as a coach? And then the flip side of that, what are some of the better rewards, or what are some of the biggest rewards you get from coaching?
So first question, to answer that, as a high school coach, you deal with parents. And parents see the game and see things through a monocular, correct? I'm a parent, and so I can empathize. When you're watching your kids and you're in a situation, whatever it is, you are concerned about your kid. And as a coach, I have to look through these huge goggles, and I have to look at the big picture. And you don't always think the same way. And I learn all the time from parents, and how to be a better parent myself. But I also see the ugly side. And so you want to try to, I'm obviously not, you'll never catch me short on words, and I'm a relationship hugging type of coach and person. And I want all the parents. Oh, I just lost you there for a second. Hang on. I want all the parents to like me, and it's I think I deserve that opportunity because I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm trying to give to kids. And um, my first priority is them and as a human being and their identity. So I think for me, it's difficult sometimes to deal with irrational parents who don't want to see things in the big picture, don't want to see how this is helping their child in life, and not just the game, not just the sports. So for me, and also as a female in the coaching world, it sometimes is difficult to deal with egos. Um, I think parents and I think egos from other people in charge in the game of soccer in general. And I imagine it's in every sport. There's a lot of egos. And you have to be humble. And you have to know that I know that I used to think I knew everything. And my way was the only way. But just this year, I ended up sitting down with a parent and having a conversation so I could hear what was going on through their goggles. But it was a parent that I trusted. It was a kind parent that I trusted. And without that conversation, I don't think we would have had the moment. And this brings me into your second question. Having that moment is what drives me for these girls and what I want to give these girls. Just this year, we were struggling. We had some injuries. My seniors, they were, I have 6 seniors, and I never had all 6 of them on the field at one time. So I had a very young group of girls starting and playing, and they were trying so hard to fight. My one conversation with this parent allowed me to see that we weren't quite as connected and quite as a family as I thought we were. And so we did a couple things to make sure that I connected people who maybe looked at somebody else as like, you know what, you're not contributing as much as you should. Or personality-wise, I had a bunch of juniors that had been with each other since they were kindergarten. And I didn't really recognize how they were kind of shutting other people out. And, they were nice and cordial, but they didn't really include them as part of their group. And so we worked on figuring out who they didn't connect with the most, and we wrote letters to each other. And, we did a couple things that allowed the relationships that were the most strained and the most far apart become the closest and support one another and held each other accountable for that. So that allowed us when we, shoved this last game in, we organized a game. Audrey Kell did. It was, Audrey Kell Sports and AD is amazing. And we, on that Friday before the world was coming to an end with sports, we were 0-4. We had lost 4 games, 1-0, and it was very difficult for our program. But because we really based our program and success on growth and relationships, we were still doing okay. We still had our head above water, but man, we wanted to win and we wanted to score a goal. And it was that few days before that Friday game that we worked on our most difficult relationship that allowed us in that game to fight and fight. And we scored with 7 seconds left in the game to win 1-0. and you would have thought we won the World Cup. Crying, sobbing, pile up, and to this day, even when knowing that we're not going to have a season, right? We're not coming back. The rest of the world isn't playing sports. High school's not playing sports. But those girls, even today, talking about it, we talk about it on Zoom and connect on our messages. They have that moment. They will have that moment for the rest of their life. No one will take it away from them. And they will see that they fought, they overcame some obstacles with relationships and connections. And it allowed us to fight to get that goal and to win that game. And it's all they can talk about when we get on a Zoom meeting. It's all they can talk about. So
Awesome.
hopefully that answer, I know I go off on a tangent. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yep.
But it is so meaningful, to have that connection with them. And I got to tell you, I've had, in this time of when we're 0-4, I had more alumni come back. I had about 15 girls. And at that game, I had about 15 girls, and I used to coach boys. I had boys come in, Coach Monty, we're here for you. And to talk to the team, we're here for you guys. It's okay. It was almost like I compared it to Carolina basketball this year, and how, it was unheard of that they were struggling so much, right? That they were having this difficult season, and they felt the world on their shoulders of, we're not having success, and we have this reputation to uphold, and we're not. And I told the girls, and my alumni coming back, they said, girls, it's okay. Just keep fighting for that moment. Keep fighting for that moment. And I knew, and I'm 48 years old, I knew at that moment on that game, having all those kids in my locker room, that I've done something right. Because they came back to tell that team that I have right now, you guys, it's okay. Don't feel the pressure. We're going to love you no matter what. We know you're fighting. We know you're trying to get that moment. You're trying to do your best to uphold the reputation of Ardrey Kell women's soccer, and I lost it before the game. And I told the girls, win or lose, it doesn't matter. You guys, look at this. It's family. It's family. And we have something special. And I said, remember how we're this circle and everybody's on the outside looking in? They still, even though we're 0-4 at the time, they're still on the outside wishing they could be part of this. I had parents, alumni parents at that game on that Friday night. It was amazing. It was an amazing moment that made me realize as a coach, I am doing something right.
Gotcha. Well, that's awesome. Well, to that point, it's kind of the one thing I think any coach aspires to have in their clubhouse or in their locker room is players that are committed to not the name on the back of the jersey, which is
Correct.
part of the issue sometimes, right? What you alluded to at the beginning, but what's on the front of the jersey. And
Right.
when you build that culture and that legacy, everything else just kind of seems to fall into place. So that's fantastic.
Yes, very, very much. People get mad at me because I don't keep stats. I said the only stat I care about is the win and loss column, because it's all about the name on the front, not the name on the back.
100%.
Something
100%.
Bigger than ourselves.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that you just paralleled it. Like I said, what's the most challenging and most rewarding both correlate right with that. So that's fantastic. Last question. We're kind of winding down here, so I'll take you off the hook here a little bit. And don't worry, Switzer will not see this. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So being able to get to know you over the years and see you in action, everything else, I've also had the privilege of being able to watch your two daughters play. And they play a variety of sports, not just soccer. And they're very competitive and they're very good at what they do. But as a parent, let's switch roles for a moment. As a parent who is a coach, how cool is it for you to now be able to sit back and enjoy just watching them play the sports that they really are truly passionate about? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's good. I love that they play something else besides soccer. Maddie is starting to get a real good niche for volleyball, and Carly is a really good basketball player. And I'm not an expert in those two things. And so when I go to watch them, I can just be a parent. And that is a great way to just flip the switch. Now, when I watch them play soccer, I, it was actually for Lent. I gave up for Lent this year was coaching my kids in my mind when I'm on the sideline. Not coaching them in my mind and not saying, the only thing I could do was say something positive. And I'm very positive, but I wasn't allowed to say to them, check your shoulder, or, behind you, or, whatever, or Maddie, get wide, turn your back, whatever it is. I wasn't allowed to do that. And I gave it up for Lent. And we only had a few games. Thank God. I think God was looking out for me. We only had a few games that I had to do that. But, in times I've had to put my jacket over my mouth to remind me, or my husband would put his hand on my shoulder and say, Lent, don't forget about Lent. And it was great to just sit back and know, hey, this is their path. And yes, I am so happy that they both love the game. They have passion, but they have passion for other things. Carly, maybe, I think she's going down the same path I am, where soccer is just, that's her passion. She wants to play in college. She wants to be a coach afterwards. To know her calling this early, it's pretty neat for me to watch that, and for me, it's the emotional and mental side that I try to work on the most with her. And now Maddie, she's got passion for a lot of things, and she's still good at soccer, but it is great for me to watch that these two kids are going in their way and they're successful at it. But they are good, and this has allowed them to have a group of people with similar interests around them. That connection, we have a lifelong friends that we have made through the sport. Their relationships with other girls that are like-minded is so important to me. I see them. They don't waste time with, meaningless relationships with boys at this time. They don't, they have relationships, but they're valued with like-minded people. They don't waste their time. They're out working out, or what, their dessert right now is getting to go play Fortnite, and they get to go. And I even see them playing Fortnite, and they have their headphones on, and they're getting what do you call it when they win Fortnite? Victory Royal. So we call them
Yes.
Vic Roys in our house. Vic Roys. I mean, they're even competing there, and I love it, and it's healthy. And they have, they're competing against other things, and they're right now more than ever. They need that because they need to win something. That's what they are loving, and they have all these relationships with these other girls that are their teammates. And they're all connected, and they're all talking, and they're on there, and they're all playing together, and they're coming together to beat other people, and for me, it's just the relationships that I've seen them. Sometimes, in the world of youth sports right now, it's so difficult, right? And things might break up, and you might have to be uncomfortable again. And that's another thing, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I do think I watch my kids, and when they're uncomfortable, it drives them to have a better growth mindset. Get away from that fixed, ugly mindset that is so afraid of failure. And playing sports and being good at something has allowed both of my daughters to have this growth mindset where they are better at school, they are better at communicating, they are better at their relationships. They have this good value and course system, and they help other people be better and be more like, this growth mindset where just this leadership quality that I've seen both of my kids have. And I feel very, very blessed about that because they are teammate first. They are all about being a good teammate first and about themselves second. And for me in life, that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I love the passion that you show in supporting, obviously, whatever it is that they do. At the end of the day, each child is different. Each one has
Yeah.
their own interest. But having that parental support to be able to help identify and follow and helping them pursue what those passions are, I think are critical, whether it's soccer, art, debate club, cooking class, whatever it is, it really doesn't
Yeah.
matter. If that's what they love, then go for it. Be the best at it. So
Yeah. Every kid runs their own race. Right. And me, as the competitive psychomaniac that I have always been, it has taught me a lot about, yes, every kid runs their own race. They come into their own at certain times, and you just want to be that shining light, that guide for them, and connect with them in whatever it is, and know that it's okay to let them go at their pace. That it wasn't always easy. There has been times in both of my daughters' life that I didn't like what it looked like. And I had to know, and going, wait a minute, you have all this potential, and instead of fighting that, finding this middle ground to help guide them. You don't have to dominate the conversation. You don't have to dominate the situation. You have to try to look through their eyes and find out what it is that's going on that's making it, not a very good situation. Or, is it that they're just terrified of failure and terrified of this being uncomfortable? And, what is it that you can do as a parent to, just because you weren't terrified of being uncomfortable, or, I grew up in a much different environment. It was not easy where I grew up, and it made me tougher. I have a lot of street smarts. My common sense is off the chart, but my book smarts, maybe not so much, and I look at my kids and I'm like, where is your common sense? You don't have any. And so, how can we as parents really manage that and make it turn into an opportunity for us to grow and get connected together, and even have a better relationship? And I'm very fortunate. It hasn't always been easy, and I know that they go through moments where sometimes you want to be around your kids and sometimes you don't. And there's been plenty of times that I haven't wanted to be around them. But right now, I want to be around them. And thank God, as we are in quarantine, because we are around each other. So you find out a lot more, but they have to be willing too. And if you just shove your way down their throat, it may not be the right thing for that kid. They all run their own race, and you just got to be patient. They bloom at different times. And I see it as a high school coach. Man, I got a lot of kids that come into their own. Just one really quick, Haley Pratt. She's a goalkeeper she's a brilliant kid, and she's at Emory in Georgia. She's going in her senior year there, but wasn't very highly recruited. She's super young, and she didn't grow, and she's a goalkeeper, and she didn't become 5'7" until probably her junior year in high school. And man, that kid coming out of high school, she had committed to Emory, and she's so happy there, and she's a brilliant mathematician and everything else that she wants to do. But I know there were D1 schools that went, holy crap, how did we miss this kid? I mean, it was because she, not only was she a great goalkeeper, but she was a tremendous leader. Probably the most fun kid I've ever coached. Best leader I have ever coached. It was that kid, because she wasn't afraid to demand, but she also had the respect of her teammates, and she was everybody's best friend once you stepped off that line. And she wasn't always like that. It was probably her junior and senior year, but she was the best teammate. And she comes back all the time. And those are the parents that I go to and say, what did you do? How did you raise your kid because I want my kid to be just like yours, and for me, that's the biggest compliment is when I get emails about my kids and what they did to make somebody feel comfortable when they came into that maybe hostile environment. That makes me as a parent know that I'm doing something right. And I just think that the parents need to be striving for that, is getting a compliment from another parent, like, how can I make my kid be more like yours? So hopefully
Understood.
that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think a ton of different words of wisdom there, both on the coaching and the parental side, obviously, and they really do correlate hand in hand. As a coach, it's almost that's basically your family, as you know.
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing, hopefully, once all of this kind of passes, we'll be able to see your team back out next year. And
Yep.
I'm sure they'll pick up exactly where they left off. I know the coach there.
Let's hope. I'm so excited for these girls to have their identities back when they get back to school. It's good to have a connection. It's good to have an identity. And quite frankly, I'm bored out of my mind. So I am ready to go. It was great to talk shop with you today, Rick. I hope, I think I went way over time, but obviously it's really fun in this day and age. Hopefully it can connect families more together in whatever they're doing.
No doubt about it. Hopefully, this will just provide another outlet other than sitting in front of a video game, or just give them something that we can talk about within our community here in Charlotte, so that people can say, hey, we're all in the same boat, but we can talk shop a little bit. So love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Awesome.
again. I do sincerely appreciate all the time. Folks, make sure to
You
check
bet.
out the webcast and Kim Montgomery, coach at RDCal. Look out for them next year. They will be right back at it. So again, appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Got it.